everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is just an update video, just kind of my little ramblings on issues that have arisen and other things. So this week been quite kind of eventful actually, because I attended two new groups, both OCD groups, OCD Action and OCD UK. They run 3 Zoom groups, which anyone with OCD can join, and also I think they have some for like family members as well. So I attended an OCD and Autism group on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. It went on for like quite a long time, I think almost 2 hours. I did have to leave towards the end. I wanted to stay to the end very much, but I did have to complete the rest of my routine. My routine was a little bit out of sync because of it, so I had to go to bed a bit later than I would normally do, but I had sort of planned for that. I knew that was going to be the case, which makes it easier for me. If I know something's going to be the case ahead of time, I can adapt it a bit. I didn't want to like make my routine too out of kilter, so I did have to leave a bit early. I think next time I'm going to be more prepared though and try and eat a bit earlier, because washing up always takes me forever. And then I can hopefully stay for the whole meeting. It was good. I actually really enjoyed it. I had my camera off though, because I always feel a bit nervous having my camera on when... I often find it's funny because I could do YouTube videos like this where I'm on camera, but I think it's different like on Zoom because you're kind of directly like seeing other people's faces, and I can find it a bit distracting. And when my camera's on, I get even more distracted. I think funnily enough, when my camera's off on Zoom, I find it easier to look at people. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's because I feel self-conscious when my camera is on or something, and my brain is kind of like overthinking stuff about how I look and where I put my hands and other stuff. When I have the camera off, I can walk to my heart's content. I can do how I like, and no one sees, which is silly. I should feel able to do that, and I shouldn't care. But the fact is, I get distracted, and my brain keeps on sending thoughts about it. So so with the camera off, I can focus on what other people are saying more. I can actually look at them. When my camera's on, I always feel self-conscious, like looking at people. When my camera's off, I find it easier too, because it's almost like you're watching a video or like a film or something. Like you're there, but you don't feel so involved, which kind of makes it easier for me to like look at people. Like I would if I was watching a film. I also find it easier to speak when my camera's off as well. I find that easier. So I did have my camera off, but next time I attend, I might, it depends how I feel, have my camera on at least for a little bit, so people could just see who I am. Maybe just at the start I might have my camera on, because then people know who I am, put a face to me and stuff. But I do quite like being able to turn my camera off at these groups, because it's sort of in groups. And it's funny because if I know someone really well and I feel kind of comfortable with them, then I'm absolutely fine having my camera on, because I've built trust with them and I know them and they're non-threatening, and having my camera on is absolutely fine. But in groups or where I'm not so kind of confident around, it's easier for me to have my camera off, at least at the start, until I feel more comfortable. But yeah, it was a really good group though, and I did actually manage to contribute a bit and kind of tell them about myself. It was interesting hearing everyone's different experiences. I'm not sure if there's anyone there like me who's housebound. I'm not sure. There might have been. I can't remember. I then on Thursday, so yesterday morning, I attended another OCD group, which was, I think it was OCD UK. I'll get mixed up between OCD UK and OCD Action, because one of them was OCD Action, one was OCD UK. I think the Autism and OCD one was OCD Action, and the one I attended yesterday was OCD UK, and that was in the morning, from 10:15. And that one was just a generic OCD group. I didn't actually get a chance to speak in that group at all, and it was much bigger than the OCD and Autism one. The OCD and Autism one felt more intimate. I think out of the two of them, I preferred the OCD and Autism one because everyone got the chance to speak. With the OCD UK one, yeah, the one I attended yesterday, it was a much bigger group, and it felt like only some people got a chance to speak, which is a bit annoying because I really did want to speak in that one. And then they said, the person facilitating it said that they would only be able to let the ones who had their hands up at the beginning speak, so all new people would put their hands up couldn't speak. That was different to the OCD and Autism one, because in that one everyone got a chance to speak, and I think that was much nicer actually. It just felt everyone was included. So I think out of both of the groups, I actually preferred the OCD and Autism one, even though it was a bit more of an annoying time for me having to do the evenings, because I do prefer morning groups. But OCD UK mid morning, not too early. It's quite a good time, 10:15, because it's not too early. But OCD UK, one I attended the other day. Sorry, what am I saying? OCD Action, the one I attended in the evening. They don't do OCD and autism groups in the morning, so their ones I think are only in the. They might have some in the morning, but I'm not sure actually. I'd have to check. But it seems that most of their groups are in the evening. But I actually do. I think out of the two of them, I preferred that one. So we'll see. It might be that I end up just attending OCD Action in future, but I have signed up to the OCD UK generic OCD one again next week. I think their ones are every week, by the way, whereas the OCD Action ones are once every 3 or once every 4 weeks, so a bit more spread out. I have signed up to the OCD Contamination one for the OCD Action as well. So yeah, these groups are really good though. I did really enjoy it, and it's really interesting hearing other people's experiences. And generally speaking, yeah, I did like the format of both groups. As I said, I did prefer, in general, the format of the OCD Action group, because everyone got a chance to speak. So I think that's one I prefer out of the two of them. But they were both good though, nonetheless. And it was interesting hearing other people's experiences. I did get a little bit distracted towards the end, because bear in mind it was almost 2 hours. That's a long time to stay focused. You know, I was trying really hard to try and focus though. Funnily enough, I found the OCD and Autism one easier to attend to, but it might be because the group was, I don't know, I think maybe I slightly preferred that group. I just found it a little bit easier and a bit less overloading. I think the person who facilitated that had a slightly slower voice. I think that might be why. Whereas, okay, that was it. The one who ran the other group, I think seemed a bit more animated, like her hand gestures were a bit more, which can be a bit distracting for me. And I think the facilitator of the other group was, I found her much easier to follow, and she seemed to have a much calmer sort of communication style, which kind of made me feel more relaxed. So I think that might be why I preferred the OCD and Autism one. It just depends really, like everyone's different, you know, everyone's different. But they're both good groups though, nonetheless, you know, they're both good groups. And people who ran them seem really nice in both cases. And yeah, I can't really fault them really. You know, some slight little, well, no, I mean, they were good groups, both of them, you know, all in all. So I think actually, out of all groups I've attended, they're probably some of the best groups I've attended actually. And I've attended quite a few groups in my time. I like the fact they were both very structured. It made, you know, it wasn't a free-for-all. There was no interrupting. People spoke when they were allocated to speak. No one interrupted. It seemed very, and that was the case for both groups. It seemed very sort of like well run in that respect. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say about that, and I feel very pleased that I've attended it, and it's really quite nice being around other people with OCD. It's quite nice. In a weird way, I sort of find it better being around. In a weird way, I find it more I've been to lots of autism groups, but OCD is such a unique experience that And I think out for two conditions, OCD and autism, OCD obviously has the most negative impact on my life. Autism also affects me massively in good and not so good ways. Generally, I'd rather not have it, but unlike OCD, it's not, how can I put it? If I was just autistic, I think I could deal with that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it would have its negative sides, and it would still be a pain in the bum, particularly around sensory issues and executive functioning and stuff like that. But I could deal with it. Like, it wouldn't be so bad, like, just to have autism, I think. But OCD is tough. Like, that is, and to have both conditions, I think it makes both of them harder to deal with as well. So I think being around other people with OCD, I sort of find kind of a bit more relatable in some ways, because they have this experience of this very specific experience that is just quite distinct. And there are so many different types of OCD, there are so many different themes, and yet there seems to be this similarity, this kind of underlying understanding of what the experience is like. Doesn't matter whether the OCD is around magical thinking, or whether you walk on cracks on the pavement, or whether your OCD is like mine, which is more logical in some ways, and around disease like COVID and stuff, but not just COVID, other diseases. I've had it for ages. It doesn't matter, like, the underlying kind of thought processes is very similar, it's just around different themes. Anyway, I'm going to move over to video number 2 now, because there's just something else I want to talk about, which is basically connected to OCD. So, moving over to video number 2 now.